Every journey begins with a single step, and the first step of this journey was 1980, November of 1980, when I took a step off the Sobral Santos, which was a boat that later collapsed and 400 people died, but I was on a boat that did sail all the way from Santorini to Manaus that day, and I got off the boat and I went right to the offices of Samuel Benchimol, and I sat at his feet, and I learned everything I could possibly learn about the Amazon, which is about 1/90th of what Samuel Benchimol knew. I became good friends with his entire family, and that relationship lasted from then until now. I took a vacation from the Amazon for almost 20 years, from 1983 to 2003, and I started going back regularly at that time. In the summer of 2014, Samuel Benchimol's son Dennis got married in Aruba. So I and my lovely wife went to Aruba, and we were at the wedding, and when the afternoon of the wedding, I sat with LICCO, Dennis's father, and asked him how he was doing with his new career, because LICCO had basically retired from the family business and had become a writer. So great a writer that he was a bestseller in Bulgaria as well as in Brazil. So I said to LICCO, I said, look, I said, I know actually one ambassador in all of Washington who happens to be the ambassador from Bulgaria. So why don't you come up to Washington so that I can introduce my very famous writer friend to my friend, the ambassador from Bulgaria. LICCO was very excited about this, and he said, that would be great. He said, why don't we try to plan for a trip in the spring? I said, the spring? I said, you know, LICCO, as my father once said, I don't buy green bananas. I mean, let's get things going now. We don't have to wait for the spring. And LICCO said, no, I can't go in the fall because we have a big trip planned in the fall. And I said, well, what's the big trip in the fall? And he said, we're going to Jerusalem. I said, who are we going to Jerusalem with? And he said, well, I'm going to Jerusalem with Salvatore, who then he pointed to, who is his cousin, because Salvatore has found films that have been shot by his father, LICCO, in Bulgaria, in a labor camp in World War II. And these were never before seen films, and they were going to make this presentation of these films to Yad Vashem in Jerusalem. Now, let me just go back for a minute. LICCO's book combines his escape from Bulgaria at the time of the Soviet occupation, along with the escape from Bulgaria of Salvatore's uncle, LICCO. LICCO was a car mechanic, basically a jack of all trades, and unbelievably, I mean, this is a little-known historic fact, was supported in his escape by Goering's brother, Albert, who was basically a Schindler and helped the Jews escape from Bulgaria. So LICCO's book combined these two stories, and LICCO's films had been discovered by Salvatore, and they were going to take them to Jerusalem, to Yad Vashem. And when I heard this, I said, no. I said, you can't go to Yad Vashem. And when Salvatore tells the story, he says, I said, stop, immediately stop. But I said, you can't go to Yad Vashem with the films. You must bring the films to Washington, to the Holocaust Museum. I said, in fact, it'd be great. We can combine a dinner with the ambassador with a visit to the Holocaust Museum. And LICCO looks at Salvatore, they look at each other, and they say, well, do you know somebody at the Holocaust Museum? I said, of course I do. I mean, I'm very well connected. None of this is true, by the way. I knew nobody. But I said, look, I'll arrange this, don't worry about it, and you'll come to Washington. So I went back to Washington after the wedding. Dennis, by the way, is still happily married. I don't know about his wife, but he is very happy. And I come back to Washington, and I look at the list of the directors at the Holocaust Museum, and Tom Bernstein is the chairman of the board. Tom Bernstein happens to be a very close friend of one of my very close friends. So I send this email to my close friend, Frank, and I say, Frank, please forward this to Tom. I was in the Amazon and met this family a long time ago. Then I went to Aruba, and they wrote a book about Bulgaria, leaving the labor camp in Bulgaria, and now there are some films we should show it to the Holocaust Museum. So Frank calls me up. He says, what are you talking about? I said, just shut up and send this to them. And he said, look, Tom's a good friend of mine, but, you know, this is not a practical joke. I said, just relax, will you? So he sends it off to Tom, and about 10 minutes later, I get an email back from Tom to Frank to me, which says, this seems very interesting, we'll send it to the staff at the Holocaust Museum. So he sends it to the staff, another 15 minutes go by. Here comes an email, OMG, exclamation, exclamation, exclamation. Those of you in Bulgaria or Brazil who don't know this, OMG is, oh my God. Another one comes back, what a treasure, exclamation, exclamation. Another one comes back, we must have this. So Frank, of course, calls me and he says, well, you know, just shows that a blind squirrel can find an acorn once in a while. And I tell all of this to Ilko, he's very excited. And so we arrange for Salvatore and Ilko to come to Washington in November, and we're going to visit the Holocaust Museum, make a presentation, and then have this very famous dinner with my very famous friend, the ambassador. So they come up to Washington in November, and Salvatore has the films with him. And we go into the Holocaust Museum offices, and they take out their white gloves, these are the archivists, and they look at the film, just the texture of it, and they're very, very excited right away because it looks just so authentic and in such pristine condition. And they put the film in, and frankly, I think everybody started to cry because they had never seen a film like this, and it's beautifully shot. It's professional quality, basically. And it's like seeing a Picasso that had already been authenticated and nobody had ever seen it before. It was quite moving. So at the end of the film, there's a piece on LICCO, Salvatore's father, just sort of goofing off, and Salvatore says, we can stop the film here. This is just my father goofing off. And then one of the people from the Holocaust Museum says, well, wait a minute. What is he doing goofing off? And LICCO said, well, you know, this is around the time of the occupation. The war had started, and, you know, my father, we have 9 reels of film of my father and sort of the Jewish community in Bulgaria. They're just passing the time. And they say, oh my God, another OMG. We are putting together an archive of all of Europe just before the Nazi occupation, during the Nazi occupation, before it really clamped down, and what Jewish life was like, and we have nothing in Bulgaria, nothing. And is it possible we could have this? This would be enormous for our collection. And Salvatore is also quite moved by this because he didn't realize that this was going to be valuable. And he sits there for a minute, and he thinks, and he says, not so fast. I'm not going to give this away so quickly to the museum. And I'm thinking, oh my, what's going on here? Is there, you know, some kind of quid pro quo that I didn't know about? Salvatore said, look, I will give you all of these films, but there's a condition, and the condition is that the Holocaust Museum has to make all of these films completely available, completely transparent to anybody who wants access to them. I want to be able to have these films on the Holocaust Museum site so that anyone who possibly has friends from Bulgaria, relatives from Bulgaria, can access the site, see these films, and maybe find somebody who they knew. And I mean, to me, that was telling of the character of Salvatore. And of course, the Holocaust Museum said yes, that is exactly what they want to do. And so that was the arrangement that we made. We had dinner the next night at the Bulgarian embassy. It was a wonderful, wonderful occasion. It's almost like a high school reunion of everybody who loved each other in high school and didn't have a chance to see each other for many, many years. And then we came back to the presentation that Ilko and Salvatore made to the museum in May. And when you see these films, you see when Salvatore talks about these films, you can hear him talk about the sort of heroism of his father. You know, his father, this handsome man, this man who was a great photographer, a great mechanic, and of course courageous and brave. And so when you look at these films, you think of the LICCOs of your own life, the LICCOs of the lives of other people, and you think how lucky we are to be able to see these films instead of having to be there to have the film shot. So it's just a wonderful present that Salvatore and Ilko have made to the museum. The museum, I know, is extremely happy. This has really been a breakthrough for them, for their collection, and I'm just delighted to have been part of it. Thank you.